All right, we are now recording.
So we will call this meeting of the Executive Committee to order. And our mission today is to discuss the Finance Committee's recommendation on staff salaries. So Laura, as I said, I'm in Maine. I do not have access to a printer. If somebody could read the declaration of why we are going into an electronic meeting, number one, and then two, our closed meeting motion, I'd appreciate that.
Sure, I'd be happy to read that for you, and I'll read the motion if somebody else wants to make the motion. But the Chapter 1283 of the Virginia 2020 Acts of Assembly addresses the ability of soil and water conservation districts to hold electronic meetings without the need for quorum being present in a single location when a state of emergency has been declared pursuant to Section 44-146(17) of the Code of Virginia. And this is the following motion that needs to be made. The Northern Virginia Soil and Water Conservation District Board of Directors has determined the nature of the declared COVID-19 virus emergency makes it impractical or unsafe for us to assemble in a single location for the purpose of transacting business statutorily required or necessary for us to continue operations and discharge our lawful purpose, duties, and responsibilities.
Jerry, are you going to make that motion? Is there a second?
A second.
And moved and seconded that we have an electronic meeting. Is there any further discussion? Probably not. I think we can do this by just saying all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 I didn't hear any nays, so that motion is carried.
Okay, and next on the agenda, John, is to go into closed session.
Closed session, right.
So we'll just need a motion to go into closed session again to discuss the
Discuss staff salaries.
as allowed by the Code of Virginia, Section 2.2-3711A1.
Again, would somebody make that motion, please?
So moved.
Adrian made the motion and Jerry seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 The motion carries. No nays. All right, thank you. Let me just say something though as we move. Is there a motion to come out of closed session?
I'll move.
Adria has made the motion. Is there a second?
Yes, Chris.
It's been moved and seconded that we leave the closed session. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 See any nays? There were 4 ayes, so the motion is carried. We're out of closed session. Do you need to start the recorder again?
I started it just a moment ago at 9:06 a.m. And so let me read the certificate of closed executive meeting. Whereas the Northern Virginia Soil and Water Conservation District has convened a closed meeting on October 27th, 2020, pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the Northern Virginia Soil and Water Conservation District that a closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Northern Virginia Soil and Water Conservation District hereby certified that to the best of each member's knowledge, one, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and two, only such public business matters as identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the Northern Virginia Soil and Water Conservation District. So that is the motion.
Is there somebody that will make that motion?
I will make that motion.
Adria, is there a second?
Second.
Jerry seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor of adopting the motion, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
All opposed, say or say nay, and there were no opposing, so we're okay with that motion that is carried. Laura, do you want to say a word now, since I think this kind of wraps up what you needed for the rest of the budget preparation? Is that correct?
That's correct. This was the one thing that really was kind of holding us up just a little bit, which isn't unusual. We want to make sure that we've got the right information going into our budget. I did want to just give you a quick update on the budget. I do intend to present that to the board in November. I do think that we'll need to have one more finance committee meeting to be able to review the draft. Certainly, we could make it more of a comprehensive executive committee meeting if there are others that would like to participate in that as well. But I will be certainly wanting to get the draft to you all for your review here pretty shortly. The budget itself is about 80% done. Now it's about 95% done. So with the motions that will be made today at the board meeting. So it's just really dotting our I's and crossing our T's and making sure that we've got the right information where it needs to be. So I look forward again to bringing that forward. On the strategic planning side, we are a little bit behind. Well, we're quite a bit behind on our calendar and our original schedule for what we had planned for our strategic plan. I am going to work with DCR and just keep them up to date. It hasn't been that there hasn't been any progress. Because there certainly has been some progress, but just, there were some things we needed to work out, and I'm glad that we're moving in the right direction. So I think Jerry and we did talk about coming together to work with the board and doing some SWOT analysis, as well as reviewing the current strategic plan. I would encourage you before we move forward with that SWOT analysis, if you will please take a look at what our current strategic plan and what is in our current strategic plan. There are a lot of things that are evergreen that just continue year after year, but certainly I look forward to having a real comprehensive conversation with you all and hearing your ideas and us all coming together in figuring out what we can reasonably accomplish over the next 4 years, and certainly even be thinking about beyond those as well. So exciting times for sure. Stay tuned. Jerry, you and I maybe can get together and revisit our schedule and see what we can do before the end of the calendar year, but certainly looking into the next calendar year.
Be glad to do that. Laura, I know you conducted a SWOT analysis with the staff. Has that been boiled down into something that we could digest and see what they're thinking, what their ideas are?
Yes, I guess, when I was thinking about it, I was interested in having it done independently. And maybe those are some of the details that we can talk about a little bit, Jerry, when we have a chance to kind of sit down. Certainly, be happy to share what we've done collectively as a team. Again, it's still pretty broad picture. Identifying some of those key challenges and things like that. But I think the one thing that we can certainly take away is that, everybody agrees with where, from a staff perspective, what we currently have going on is important work. And so I think it's going to be exciting to think about how that looks into the future as well. But maybe we can talk about that a little bit more, Jerry.
Right. Look forward to it.
Is there anything else that needs to come before the executive committee today? Laura, I might ask one other question since we have just a few minutes. You were involved with some people from Thomas Jefferson, I think, on some sanitary things at one point. Jerry had kind of contributed to that too. What's the status of that?
Well, the status of that is that so let me give a little bit of background. For those of you that were involved in some of the legislative calls or heard some of the feedback from the legislative, the calls related to Area 2's legislative agenda development, which took place this past summer, there was some interest in exploring a statewide and establishing a statewide program for septic pump out and repairs. There are a number of districts that have very strong programs already in place, but they are very closely tied to the 319 funds, EPA 319 funds, which are related to, and you must have a TMDL implementation plan associated with an area in order to be able to take advantage of those funds. So the interest was to be able to establish a statewide program. So Jerry Amcoats from Thomas Jefferson Soil and Water and myself had an opportunity to get together I reached out to the Fairfax County Health Department and also reached out to Ann Jennings, Deputy Secretary of Natural Resources for the Commonwealth, to learn a little bit more about what may already be in play here in Fairfax County, and then also more broadly at that state level, some of those conversations. So right now, unfortunately, we did prepare some legislative information based upon some of those conversations and our conversations with, together with Jerry and Ann, to move forward with the recommendation of doing a study to determine the feasibility of establishing a statewide program. I don't believe that it moved forward into the state association's legislative agenda. It was tabled, if you will, not completely dismissed, but tabled. I think that there are two important studies that have taken place by the Virginia Department of Health and the Virginia Institute of Marine Sciences on exploring septic failures in the coastal zone and understanding what the rate of failures are with whatever health districts they can get information from. In Fairfax County, there's certainly some interest in looking into this. Right now, we've got a fairly decent compliance rate in regards to self-reporting for pump outs and inspections of about 80%. And so there's very much interest in kind of perhaps pursuing some additional education and outreach through the district. That's a conversation, again, just began in late August, and we haven't had a chance to kind of pick up that ball and run with it again at this point, but it certainly hasn't fallen too far on the back burner to have been forgotten. So,
And I tell you, we've worked with Paul Shannon. Okay. Is there anything else that needs to come before the executive committee at this point? Give you time to get a fresh cup of coffee? Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm so that we're all good with Laura moving forward with the next steps, the new hire with Urban 3, now that she has the ability to negotiate as needed. Correct? There's no questions or concerns.
my understanding.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there a motion the executive committee be adjourned?
I'll make that motion. I'll make that motion.
Adria's made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the executive committee meeting be adjourned. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Bye.
There's 4 ayes. The ayes have it. The executive committee is adjourned. We will meet as a full board at 9:30. Thank you all. Appreciate it. And to Chris, thank you for the finance committee's work in helping resolve some of these things and helping with the budget. Appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
All right,
So,
thank you.
so we sign off and sign back on another.
I think we have to sign off and sign back in, don't we?
Yes, you'll have to use the other.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Ah.